Hello there my sisters and brothers in scale. In the previous video, the link on the left upper corner, I have reviewed ICM's 1/48th scale Ju88 A4. Now it's time to start building this nice plastic kit. Please take a seat, press buttons, and let's get started! As in 95% of aircraft's miniatures, I started with the cockpit, which has nicely molded details. ICM provides us only plastic parts with no photo-etched elements, but it's enough to build a well-detailed miniature straight from the box. As I mentioned in the previous video, some parts have visible seam lines that need to be removed, otherwise they may worsen the final effect. So let's not regret a few swipes of the scalpel or sanding paper to eliminate these little shortcomings. ICM did a good job with details, nevertheless seat frames were quite annoying to assemble. After a couple of swearings later they were ready. Ooh yeah! I do like soft plastic in which the model is molded. It allows cutting of parts from sprues with little flesh to clean even with my not very high quality side cutters. Now it was the right time to think about adding some scratch built details to the cockpit. At first I decided to make pedal belts from masking tape and aluminum foil. After cutting a 1mm wide stripe I could glue short pieces to pedals. Yeah, it's not any either important detail, but these things will be visible through the glass nose. Using 0.3mm copper wire, I also prepared some levers. Unfortunately, I didn't succeed to melt its ends with a lighter flame to achieve more realistic looking tips. Yeah, shame on me. Based on the reference photos, I superglued this part to the cockpit. Please do not ask me what it was in a real aircraft, but it was easy to make from 0.8mm copper wire and was looking nice. Such a great approach, doesn't it? In the end, I added some floor cables which were missing in the model. Now it was the right time for painting. At first I used Tamiya's primer, which I secretly transferred to paint jars from totally uncomfortable to use spray cans every third Saturday at 9 PM in my garage. Okay, it's not very confidential anymore. Using Mr. Surfacer 1000 I covered some imperfections and more visible joints. Then, ladies and gentlemen, the legendary XF63 German Grey came. The color was the main of cockpits of many World War II German airplanes. Once the cockpit was painted, it was time for some weathering. At first, I used Citadel's dry paint called
GSK.
Such a great name, doesn't it? It's a paint specially designed for dry brushing. Being very thick and sandy, this thing facilitates the whole work, bringing out all edges and details. There are two principles. First, to use a soft brush. Second, to remove the excess paint from the brush before painting. Otherwise, we cover the whole surface with a thick layer of paint. Other details were painted also with Citadel's paints, but from the baseline. These are my paints of choice for brush painting. They are very efficient with great covering properties as well as the comfort of use. The only fault of these paints is the fact that they were designed for wargaming enthusiasts, so their color range is not common with the one for the scale modelers. For example, instead of field green, we have the color named War Flash. It's a water-based wash that doesn't soak in the paint, so there's no need for any gloss coat or varnish applied before. Adult seatbelts are so gorgeous as not to be used in this model. They will improve the accuracy of the miniature as well as level up the final effect. It's a shame that ICM doesn't include similar ones to their kits or substitutes like decals or crew members' figures. Now it was time for the first series operation, connecting the fuselage halves. To do this, I decided to reinforce both halves with the piece of plastic screw in the part where the connection was at its most crooked. As I was expecting, the seam line was quite significant. It was necessary to sand the connection with sanding paper before applying putty. Speaking of which, it took a lot of this thing. Okay, I don't blame ICM for this. On the 1/48 scale, the fuselage halves are quite big elements and it would be difficult to mold them in perfect shape without losing any tenths of millimeters during the production process. So, excused. Now beware, the spoiler alert. The model will need far more fillings. In the meantime, please enjoy some footage of sanding the putty. I always use water sanding paper soaked in water. It protects me from all this dust with many nasty things which could gather around my workbench. For removing such an amount of putty, I use 240 grit sanding paper and later 600 grit for a better finish. After first sanding, I covered all places with putty with one-shot primer from Ammo MIG to reveal any imperfections to remove. Thanks to it, I achieved a smooth surface for further work. In the meantime, I glued some clear parts which I shamelessly forgot. To do this, I had to remove pedals and then glue them once again. Now it's time to restore panel lines and hatches in various shapes. For this operation, I used highly advanced tools made of photo etch sheets and some spare plastic parts. Yes, highly advanced. Dry fitting of the fuselage with the bottom section also revealed fitting problems. At first, I removed some pins which were too wide. Then I started connecting parts. After squeezing with my fingers the bottom section for about 20 minutes to get correct alignment, when I nearly lost my finger pads, I glued together the front section. The gaps between them were significant, so guess what? Of course, more putty was required. Before its application, I filled a little hole next to the clear part with PVA glue, the excess of which was removed with a wet cotton stick. Now please enjoy watching some footage of sanding the putty once again. The instructions suggest assembling wing halves and then attach them to the fuselage. I decided to do this differently. To attach the upper wing half to the fuselage, then the bottom half. It should be easier because wings are big and heavy parts, quite difficult to manipulate. As you may have spotted, I use two types of Tamiya cement. A standard one with resin and an extra thin. The first one is perfect for large parts. Being thick with slow setting time, this thing allows attached parts to create strong bonds. Nevertheless, it shouldn't be used in visible places because it leaves remains. The green one is extra thin, which means that the glue flows between parts and melts plastic. This thing dries fast and evaporates from surface, leaving no marks. To fill narrow slots, I use my secret weapon, washable acrylic putty from Vamut. This thing was only 7 Polish zloty, 1.8 euro, but is worth 10 times more for me. The putty is very easy to apply and even easier to remove its excess with a wet cotton stick. Before using this type of putty, it's important to mind differences between them and standard putties. The acrylic ones are not suitable for any mechanical processing. Forget about sanding them, they are fragile. They are to fill tiny slots and holes next to parts with many details which could be destroyed by more aggressive solutions and sanding. They also shrink more than, for example, white Tamiya putty. This is why sometimes you must put another layer of acrylic putty to eliminate very small cavities. The rest of the assembly was without problems. Parts were fitting well and the model was taking shape. I think it's too early for any verdicts. The kit has some fitting issues, but is also nicely detailed. Thank you for watching, my friends. Hope you liked this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon next to the subscription button to be alerted when I publish the next episode. You can also follow me on Instagram, the link in the video's description. See you next week. Cheers!